that kid really wants everybody to say Happy 4th of July. So, Happy 4th of July.
Hello, party people! Welcome to the Horror Update production. Right? When? The Horror Production Report Update number 12! Yes, welcome back. We are here. It's only been 8 days since my last update, which is just a hair over a week and is shorter than I normally do. I'm noticing now the framing is odd. I have a lot of negative space. Usually I'm standing or I'm holding the phone. I'm actually sitting. I have real lighting. This is the area where I do toy reviews normally, and I'm just trying to do a quick video here. My father is coming into town tomorrow morning. And he'll be here for about 2 weeks. I may or may not be able to do a video update during that time. So while this is shorter than my normal update, or shorter interval between my normal updates, my next one could conceivably be 2.5 weeks from now. That's not including my San Diego Comic-Con one, which will be up in the next, hopefully, day or two. This, however, is the horror production report. Why do I make that title? And I don't change it. I'm not going to change it. Update Go-Go's. So, it has been a sort of lopsided work period, almost a week, 8 days, and basically it started Monday, which was the first day back from San Diego Comic-Con. Didn't do any work on the horror. I was catching up on emails and client things, just cleaning the house, and life just sort of took a day. Then Tuesday, theoretically, I was going to work on the horror, but once again, I got sidetracked with other client work, and I don't have a really good excuse, just didn't work on it. The rest of the week, I did put in a lot of work on the horror. I also had some client work, which I finished up. I had a musician wanted me to do a cartoon of their face with like a little logo with a flag and stuff. Finished that, been approved, payment's on its way. Got a corporate caricature, just one person. Finished that, got approved, payment's on its way. So the only client work, again, that I have is the Kid Switch comic book. It's the only thing I have going on right now. But I did work on the horror quite a bit throughout the week. I finished up the inks on page 2, which was almost done, but I'll go ahead and show you the finished page right here. There is that. Then I started working on page 3. Clearly, that would make the most sense. And I think I mentioned this last time, but I'm focusing on the inks as opposed to the gray tones. I may throw in a gray tone here or there, like on the horror at the bottom of page 2, and like a little bit on page 3 that I'll show you in a minute. But for the most part, I'm focusing on the inks, getting that done, and then when I'm done with the whole book, I plan on going back and putting in the gray tones, which will be a lot quicker and hopefully get a more uniform gray tone look, if that makes sense. Also, hopefully the inks will be stronger if I'm forced to look at them without the gray tones for a bit. So that is my plan, at least right now, going forward. So I finished up page 3 just today. Today being Monday. It's Friday, and I haven't really started working on my video yet. I've gone back and forth between doing these daily updates and writing myself notes or whatever. And I don't know, it's weird. When I was doing the daily updates, I found the videos to be a lot... I found the updates to be a lot easier because it was like, here's what happened today. If I went out, here's a video of the thing I did, whatever. Excuse me. But anyway, oh, there's my face blowing out. Blowing out! But anyway, I decided to just... The mood struck me... Oh my God, cat butt. You want a cat butt? I have a cat butt. I have 2, really. But the mood struck me to sort of say something. I'm literally working on the horror right now. I'm trying to make up for lost time, as I'll talk about in the rest of the video. So far this week has not been great at getting the horror done, but today I'm putting in extra time to make up for that. Hello. And this is the all Uzi video update. But I've been also catching up on videos of the 100s that I missed out on because of life and Comic-Con and other things. Specifically catching up on Mike Emeritz's videos, which I'm continually shocked how few people watch him. And I don't mean this as a slam at him. And Mike, if you're watching, I'm not trying to point out, like, nobody watches. It's more like, I'm watching day 40 right now, and there's 6 views. And, you know, he's being personal. He is bringing up good artistic points, both struggles and suggestions and tools. You know, he's funny. He does, like, a lot of production. And so I'm at a loss as to why he has so few views. You know, I think Scott Serkland and a few other people have said this. You know, maybe people are just catching up and are on the earlier videos, like, because I'm a little behind too. But, you know, if you're not watching his videos, check him out. And check out all of the 100s. But I just happen to be watching his right now. That's why he's getting the, you know, plug. But he was talking about something that made me want to touch on something. He was saying how he had more time this week or this day or whatever to work on his art, and not just on Space Cat, which is his comic, but he's doing figure drawing and gesture drawing and, like, you know, sort of the nutrition of art. You know, drawing your character is like the dessert, but, you know, practicing and studying is the potatoes and the vegetables, and if you eat meat, then the meat. So what this made me think of, I will go through phases where I study. Like, I'm not in one of those phases right now, and I haven't been since I started the 100s. But I'll, like, put, you know, drawing dynamic anatomy, I'll put that, like, in the bathroom, and every time I go to the bathroom, I'll read a page or two, get out, and sketch that. Or, you know, I spent a while looking at tutorials to do hands, and just let me, okay, how do I do hands, you know, perspective, whatever I have a lot of, you know, trouble areas, as we all do, and I will take time and study them. And it never fixes it or solves it, but it makes me level up like 1%, 5%. You know, I know that I'm a little bit better. The next time I encounter one of those problems in art and drawing, I have a little bit more in my toolbox. I approach it a little bit better. I still might fail. I still might do a bad job, but hopefully I do a better job than I did, you know, the previous time. And every time you draw something, if you draw a hand 50 times, the 50th time is going to be better, even if you don't study. But I feel like the studying can kind of help move that quicker. The bad side, though, the flip side, at least for me, and this isn't for everyone, and I'm certainly not advocating that you don't study art and don't, you know, work on the skill side of it, because I'm the complete opposite. I'm not a big believer in talent. I'm a big believer in skill and hard work. You know, talent may or may not exist, but I feel like it's irrelevant if you have talent. Anyway, I'm not going to go down that tangent again. But the flip side of studying, for me, is that I see every flaw in my work. Well, that's not even true. I see a ton of flaws. There's probably ones I don't see, which is probably for the better. And I tend to redraw, and I've talked about this before, where my ability to perceive imperfections far exceeds my ability to correct imperfections. And I'm talking about objective things. I mean, arguably it's all subjective, but if I see that the anatomy is weird, or I see that the proportions are weird, or I see that there are tangent lines, or I see that the perspective is off, you know, those are objective things wrong. That arguably I can say, well, that's my style, or I don't care, or not everyone's going to notice it. And there's some truth to that, but the more I learn, the more I see. And so it's a thing where, okay, I'll study hands, and I've gotten a little bit better at hands. But I also now see more flaws in hands than I previously did. So even though I'm getting better, my perception of what makes a correct or good drawing of a hand increases as well. So I'm kind of chasing that, you know, what's it, chasing the dragon's tail or whatever they say if you're an addict, where you get that first high and you can never catch it again. And I feel like that's, oh, look here, oh, this is what I can perceive, this is where I am. Now I get a little bit better, but my perception goes up. So it's, and that's the artist's dilemma. And it's, you know, better to do that than to be like, hey, it's great, even though I can't draw very good hands, I think it's perfect, you know. But it is one of those things that slows you down, and one of those things that makes me take 15 hours on a page. And, you know, so I'm trying to study and not let that slow me down, where I'm trying to internalize it subconsciously. Like, I know this is how it should be, I know I'm getting better, but if the hand comes out the way I drew a hand yesterday, I'm going to let it go rather than redraw it 15 times. Now, I say this having redrawn that panel, you know, last update, you know, for like 2 hours. So we'll see how it goes. Anyway, that was just something I want to talk about right this minute. Saturday there was a cosplay and anime festival in San Francisco, which turned out to be pretty disappointing. I was planning on coming home with all kinds of pictures of me with crazy cosplayers and video footage and stuff. I'd been to other festivals up there before, and they closed down a street, and it's all kinds of vendors. There was like 2 tables with vendors. There was a lot of people there, but the cosplay was kind of disappointing. Now, I don't know, maybe I missed it. It was from 11 to 5, and I was there from like, I don't know, 2 to 4, something like that. And they had some famous cosplayer from Japan up on stage answering questions, but she was just wearing some kind of outfit. It was a cosplay outfit, but it was sort of like just a dress. There was nothing crazy. And she was answering very banal questions, which are fine if you're a fan of her. I'm sure, oh, what's your favorite, you know, Western TV show, stuff like that. But I was expecting like a parade, kind of like the Masquerade Ball at Comic-Con, or at the very least, like, you know, fandom people walking around. But most of the people were not in costume, and those that were didn't, like, there was a lot of Narutos that almost looked, you know, Halloween costumey, as opposed to, like, you know, I'm not being down on people. I don't cosplay, and if I did, I'm sure I wouldn't be these super deluxe townspeople. But when it's a cosplay festival, you expect to see something impressive, and it kind of wasn't. I spent one up there with Q and my friend Jeff, and then we spent most of the rest of the day hitting toy stores. I went to Kimono My House, a couple other places, and I came home with a nice big load of vintage toys for reasonable prices, so that was good. But I did not come up with the treasure trove of B-roll footage for you guys that I thought I would. The next day, though, was Sunday. The whole weekend they had California Extreme, which is a video game pinball expo right here by my house, and I'll show you some footage of that right now. Hey, it's Gazbot. It's Sunday, and we're doing it California Extreme style. That's right. Pinball and video games are go. A 2-day event once a year, and you probably can't hear me. So, let us start. Basically, it is at a hotel convention center, and they take over most of the space there. And you could see just a few games that I thought were interesting. This one, Turkey Shoot, actually had feathers that would fly up when you shot the bird. And they have a lot of the common games you'd expect. They're all set to free play. You paid admission to get in. And they always have a lot of rare games and prototypes and one-offs and customs. And it's a lot of fun. And Saturday they have panels and stuff. But again, I said I went Sunday. So I mostly just played games, and they have a few vendors, but it's usually like parts for games and things like that. Nothing I'm usually super interested in. There's Fix-It Felix Jr. from Wreck-It Ralph. That's something I've seen show up a lot lately. This really excited me at first. It's a Lupin the Third game, which is an anime I enjoy. But it's a typing game. Like there's a Type of the Dead or something like that, which I had seen before, which is House of the Dead. And they're literally keyboards, and you have to type. It has this cool animated opening scene, which makes you think you're going to be playing like a cool Lupin game. Like, oh yeah, we're going to like pull some heists and shoot at some cops and stuff. As you can see, Q and I got our names up there. But yeah, it's a typing game, it's just weird. But it was cool. I'd never seen it before. This thing, they called it a digger dog. It's a weird poop butt, and it's got no front. I mean, I guess you're supposed to bury it in a hole or something, but it looked bizarre. Look at this game. It's a shooting game. It's one of those Laserdisc live-action games. Ever see it before? No. Doesn't work very well. You know what this game is called? You'll never in a million years guess. That's right. Gallagher. Like the 80s comedian that smashes watermelons. He had a game. Didn't do very well.
The action is fast and furious. Look at the bacon just sitting there, not doing... But here comes donut hole and hot dog bun. Mustard swirling around like a fool on fire. Milk just sitting in the goal. This is the craziest confectionery conflagration I've seen in decades. The action on the ice is raw. The food is thawing. I don't know.
These are our friends, Shelby and Phil, and they were playing a game. We hooked up with them for a little bit. Yeah, and it's just, you know, kind of everything. You can see here there's like DJ machines, and there's DDR dance tape machines, and all kinds of various music, pop and beats, and beat magic, and every version of that. And I started to do a little walkthrough here. I maybe do a third or a fourth of the whole entire area. And this was like medium crowded. It got less crowded later, and it was more crowded before. Here's pinballs. There's tons of pinball machines and arcade cabinets. And I know it's hard to see the individual machines here. I just want to give you an idea what it's like to walk through this place. Like if you think of a retro arcade that they have now, Tron, of course, one of my all-time favorites. Just imagine a retro arcade that you've seen, or an old-fashioned arcade, and then multiply it by like 5 and add other stuff, and that's what you're getting. This is weird. It was a Pac-Mania cabinet with like a space game in it. They had this thing, you only saw it for a second, but you had to pedal to make it go. Deadly Weapon, starring Mel Gibson-like guy, I suppose, and what seems maybe Chow Yun Fat. There was a lot of these weird pinball machines that were based on other things. Marble Man was a sequel to Marble Madness that was never released. It was a prototype. This game, Nightmare, I had seen before but never played it. And just watch this opening sequence. It's so weird.
Psychophysicist Dr. John Roldar seeks to control the power of the mind. Success!
He made the beaker of water come to his head with stars. But then
He crosses the gulf between reality and the world of thought.
he gets captured. He's a trespasser. So he goes there and, like, with his mind power, somehow goes there and gets in jail. And he's banished. It makes me think of like Nightbreed or some weird Wes Craven beginning of a story that doesn't quite make sense. And then look at the gameplay. This is you. You're this little floaty face thing put in like an actual physical jail. You're in this astral night world,
And then enemies come from the muck, and you just gotta shoot them. It just becomes a shooter game. It's such a build-up for such a disappointing game. Three Stooges game. Did not know this existed. It's not a very good game. The gameplay is pretty weak. Versus the Goonies. That title is bizarre. I had Goonies 2 on NES. I always thought it was a sequel to the movie. It was a sequel to that arcade game. Captain America and the Avengers, one of those classic arcade smash-em-ups, and there's X-Men. Its counterpart. That's the smaller X-Men cab. There's a bigger one. These were some digital pinball machines. They were small, and they were countertop. This thing is they had a couple old-fashioned games. You see 10 cents. And it's just like light projecting behind it, these weird trivia questions. I don't know how many there were, but there's no tickets, there's no payout. I mean, I guess it would be in a bar. I love this picture. And you would just guess and tell your friends you're smarter than them. I don't know. This was I don't know if this was a custom or what, but it was an Elton John pinball machine for Captain Fabulous, but they had it look like you have the boots on, which is pretty cool. There's the Doctor Who pinball, one of my favorite pinballs of all time. This is Video Pinball Tron 2.0. This was created a couple years ago, I saw it. This is a one-of-a-kind. It was made from an Atari pinball, made as though Encom had created this game. This was The Adventures of Major Havoc, one of the rare-ish games there. This cabinet is the more rare one that I've seen. It's a fun game. It's a little bit hard. It's vector graphics like Asteroids or something. And these are the controls. And yeah, it was just a fun game, and I had not seen that particular cabinet. They had a Defender pinball machine, which I thought was weird. I guess it was in that time between when pinball was sort of becoming obsolete. Stern, the only company that still makes pinball machines, made Kiss and Walking Dead this year. There may have been one other. Every year they come out with 2 or 3 based on hot properties, and that's keeping it alive. This game, so bizarre. Snacks and Jackson. I don't know if it's based on a cartoon or an old TV show or what. It's like, oh, here's some weird clown game. I guess I'll try it. And this was one of the last games I played. I almost didn't play it. Eat 4 meals a day and his nose bouncing and eat all foods between okay, it's some kind of bouncing, eat food Monday. And I'm thinking it's going to be like, eat a bunch of pies. It's a funny clown, right? Here goes, what? My nose flies off. What? My control makes my head. It's on like a little flesh string. It's so... No, well, there's bacon coming in through a door. It's like some sort of hellish nightmare world. Like, this is one of the most disturbing things I've ever seen. Keep bouncing your nose while you eat bacon that flies at you. Oops. The other thing is, the other control you have besides moving your head is sneeze, which is right here. Watch. Sneeze. Achoo. Achoo. Which I don't really know what it does except move your ball. Oh, look, here come pancakes. Quick, eat them all before your nose flies away on your string neck. How are those pancakes even going down your neck? It's terrifying.
It's Sunday. I'm walking home from California Extreme, which is the video game pinball expo, which they have every year. I discovered it the first year we lived here, shortly after we moved in. It's right down the house. I mean, it's a bit of a walk, but it's walkable. And I've come every year since. This year, I only came Sunday. Saturday's typically the better day, but I did the whole anime festival yesterday, which in retrospect, I probably would not have skipped this for that, but whatever. I had a good time, bought some toys. There goes the train. I was going to say the BART, but it's not a BART. It's just a train without a name of a person. So today and yesterday, I have not worked on the horror. Yesterday, I didn't work on anything. Today, when I got up, I worked on a little bit of client work before going out for California Extreme. Tonight, I'm going to have to finish up that client work. It's like a logo design for a musician. I have to finish that and send it out, and then I also have one corporate caricature, which I also have to finish and send out because that's all due Monday. And then that'll be it for my client work, except for the page. I got another payment for the page of Kid Switch, so I now owe a page of Kid Switch. None of that is the horror, however, and yeah, the week started off strong, and it's not ending very strong. Ideally, I'd make up the hours tomorrow, except tomorrow is the last day before my dad comes to visit. So I'll try to get some work in on the horror, but there's a lot of stuff I have to do just to get the house in order and all that kind of stuff. And then he's going to be here for about 2 weeks. And this is something, the whole family thing, and Kevin Cross has talked about this. I get along with my family, I think, a little bit better than maybe he does, but it's still, my dad's here every day, all day for 2 weeks. Q goes to work during the week, so she'll hang out on the weekends, but it's sort of up to me to entertain my dad, and I love my dad, and I'm glad he's coming to visit. Also, we only have one car, so it's a thing where now I'm going to have to get up early every day, drive Q to work, come back, and then do whatever he wants. And because she doesn't really like other people driving the car, she barely likes me driving the car, that also means if he's like, let's go for a hike, if it's a 2-hour drive away, I have to get up early, drive her to work, drive back, then drive us 2 hours, then go hiking, then drive 2 hours back, and then repeat, So it gets tiring, but it also, and it's like I said, I enjoy it, but but it also, I've cleared most of my client work, so I don't have a lot of work to do while he's here. But that also means I'm not going to be taking work while he's here. That also means it's going to be hard to make time for the horror. I was kind of building up a good momentum, doing a couple hours a day, and now these last 2 days, it's a weekend, I was busy, whatever, but I got 2 weeks of him coming where I'm going to try to squeeze in some horror time where I can, but I can see, even if I have time at the end of the night, just being exhausted, because, you know, we tend to do a lot of outdoorsy stuff when he's here. And then he'll be gone, and then I'll have a week in between, and then 2 other friends are going to visit for at least a week. One of the things I might do with my dad, one of the first things actually, is go car shopping, because Q and I have been talking about me getting a cheap used car, nothing fancy, but just so that I have a crappy car to knock around in case there's an emergency. When people visit, I don't need to borrow her car. And I've typically had a car on the East Coast until I moved out here, and I just like walking and riding my bike. It kind of forces me to get exercise, and it's less, you know, money to spend, and it's just one less thing to worry about in terms of repair and legal paperwork and all that. But I guess, you know, it might be time to bite the bullet and get a crappy used car. But my dad knows more about cars than I do, so that might be a activity we could do while he's here. And if that's the case, I'm going to push it to the front of the visit. All that being said, there'll probably be another. This won't be the end of the video, even though I'm filming it now. I'm probably going to film again tomorrow, Monday, and that will be the button on where I'm at the end of this period before my dad comes. And yeah, I'm also still working on the Comic-Con video and the Gas Bot in Japan videos. And I also have a couple toy reviews coming up for Collection DX because I got some samples, so those need to be done in the next couple weeks. And we just recorded a new show, which is already up, the CDX show, which I always talk about. Anyway, it's in the link if you care. And I'm going to move ahead now to Monday. Welcome to Monday! Oh.
And I'm back. Yes, that was me a second ago. Well, that was me a day ago, and now here I am. So that night, I did, in fact, finish up all of my client work, which has since been approved, and payments are being sent. So the only client work I have left is the Kid Switch comic, which I mentioned. Today, Monday, in anticipation of my dad coming tomorrow and not being sure how well I'll be able to schedule that with the horror and other work I need to do, I put in 4 hours on the horror today, which felt really good. Finished page 3 completely and started page 4. Didn't get a lot done on page 4. So I'm going to go ahead and show you page 3. I'm going to start with the rough and kind of talk my way through it a little bit. So here is page 3.
So this was my original rough that was done before I showed the rough issue to anybody. And there are a couple problems with it. One is that I realized I should have the horror coming up there facing the other way, because action reads the letter better from left to right, at least in America and Western civilization. So the first thing I did was to flip that. This was before I showed it to anybody. When I was just going over myself, I realized, oh, I should change that. So here I change it. I flip it. And I kind of hunkered them down a little bit and put a little bit more shadowing on them. And then I put in the rough lettering, and I wanted to have this big yell be kind of part of the artwork. And I'm not much of a letterer, and it's tough because I feel like I'm probably going to end up having to do the lettering. And then I just put in all the other rough lettering here. And the idea was is that I could pass it off to, I had said, like a couple artist friends to take a look at it and have the story roughed in with the lettering. So that was one correction I quick made myself. Then I got some notes from my pal Mike Dawson, who said basically that transition seems a little quick. So I put in another panel of one of the miners with a shadow falling over him. Now, arguably, he might have meant add another page or a whole lot more, but I felt like one more panel helps it. I think this does improve it. Maybe it could be improved more, but I kind of quit while I was ahead, and sort of this was my final revised rough that is what I was working from when I did the inks this period, and I got all the inks done, and here's the final inks. And as you can see, I kept pretty true to the roughs. The main thing I changed was the first panel. I made the horrors coming up out of the earth, and this isn't really what he looks like. He's covered with rock and muck and stuff, but I made him be more of an imposing presence where he's dominating the panel instead of coming up, just popping his head up a little bit. And yeah, so that was the end of that panel. Page.
Started a bit on page 4, not a whole lot to show. I'm not going to show you anything, but I will tell you that I once again started with like a second panel with like a person's face, and this seems to be something I keep doing. Is sort of starting with the easy and work my way through. I don't know, a lot of people say they work the other way. I just find it, to get myself going, if I start on something hard, it's that much harder to get going. Whereas once I've been working for an hour or two and I filled in the rest of the panel, then I just have that thing in perspective, or that whatever is hard to draw in that panel, or I don't feel like drawing it. It's more like, oh, once I get this done, it's done. As opposed to put all the work into that and then still have to do everything else. I don't know, it's all psychological mind games to trick me into think I like drawing. Behind me, like I said, I'm going to do a Comic-Con thing. This is the exclusive Devastator, which I'm mainly including because Ox and a few other people have mentioned, oh, I better see that in the next update. Now, really, this is for the Comic-Con update, but I'll go ahead and show you. You can get a Hasbro, retail market version of this. It doesn't come with this awesome box. Brah! And the other thing is there's some cool chrome, and it has a different head sculpt that doesn't have the sunglasses, but just the regular eyes. But anyway, there's my Devastator. He's quite large, as you can see, and he's my friend. I also got the Combiner Hunters, which are the girl robots that hunt him down and use, well, not just him, but all Combiners, and they're pretty awesome too. But they're across the room, so you don't get to see them unless you watch my Comic-Con wrap-up.
Wait, let me just interrupt you there. You forgot something, man. You forgot to tell them roughly how much work you did per day. Well, it's weird, you see, because I had some really stellar days doing 3.5 hours and 4 hours in a day. But meanwhile, other days I did nothing. So despite feeling greatly accomplished on days like today, Monday, when I did 4 hours, it evened out to almost exactly 1.5 hours per day, which is basically what I did last time. And I wanted to beat that. I wanted to do at least 2 hours, if not more. So, maintaining, not so great.
So, that's pretty much it for this update. I was talking to Q about how when people come to visit, it's sort of like tough because I like when they visit, but I feel the need to entertain them and stuff. And she and I decided I'm going to try to make a priority of getting work done. I mean, I cleared most of my client work out, which is always good for when people visit, but she's like, yeah, but the horror is your job. Like treat it like your job. And she's right, and I tell other people this. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to work 8 hours on it and ignore housework and my father and everything else. What I'm going to try to do is wake up, have breakfast with him, hang out a little bit, and then put some hours in on the horror. Then Q gets home from work and we, have dinner and hang out, whatever. That's kind of my general plan. Now, there are going to be a few days, I'm sure, where I'm going to have to take the whole day and we're going to go kayaking or something like that. But my hope is that when you see this next update in whenever it is, 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, when my father's gone, there'll be a bunch of cool B-roll of me and him having adventures and me saying, like, look how much work I got done on the horror. That's the hope. Meanwhile, I'm going to end this update number 12. Make sure to check out all the other hundreds. I've been catching up on a lot of videos. Mike Emeritz, as I've said before, I've caught up on his videos. And Samurai Ox hit the 100. Boom! Moving right on to 200. So grats there, Ox, and check him out. And I've been catching up on Scott Serkland, who's doing it after his 100 days. And, of course, Kevin Cross is on his third go-round. And a few other people. I'm forgetting some people. There's a bunch of people doing it. These are people that I just sort of recently caught up on. I'm always catching up, especially when I go away or something. I have the build-up. But it's great because I always have stuff to watch while I'm working. That being said, this is Gazbot. Update 12. Getting closer. We're done. Bye.